Okay, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines are open. You are good to go.
Thank you, Matt, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for March 22nd, 2022. Before we get going on our hearings, I just want to make an announcement about our future meetings. Will be the last meeting we'll be doing remotely or on Zoom. Our next week, we will not be meeting, but our next meeting will be on April 5th, in which we will be live in the town hall building. I think, council, just to be clear, I think we also have the ability for people to be Zooming in if they cannot be live. Is that right?
Yes, we're going to be looking at how the governor's office advises with respect to hybrid hearings going forward. Obviously, the state has been reviewing the accessibility through both in-person and virtual and seeing if they can get to a point where they can have some sort of hybrid offering. But we got to watch the state rules for that.
Okay.
In terms of open meetings. Right.
So for now, we will be live on April 5th.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We will move now to our first hearing, and the applicant is Martin Handler, Surf Club Unit 222 at 20 Surfside Avenue in Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-049-06-21. Again, the applicant is Martin Handler of Surf Club Unit 22. The size and the location is 333,633 square feet, 20 Surfside Avenue, Montauk. The description is to enclose an existing two-story open entrance for Unit 22 with a new exterior entry wall and door on the first floor and an exterior wall and window on the second floor. The additions would match the existing material and finishes, and infill roofing would also match existing finishes and replace existing trellis framing. Additionally, the project would involve relocating the existing exterior electrical fixtures. A natural resources special permit NRSP pursuant to 255-420 and variance from 255-440 coastal setbacks of the town code. A 37-foot variance is required to construct the addition of 113.3 feet from the primary dune crest where 150-foot setbacks is required. The zoning district is RS Resort, VE Velocity Zone, and X Flood Zone. Secret class is Type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
We have an affidavit of service and posting reflecting a mailing date of March 10th, 2022, and a posting date of March 11th, 2022, and the paperwork does appear to be in order.
Thank you. Who's going to be handling this in Montauk?
This is Lori Wiltshire.
Oh, Lori, one of the applicants.
Terry first. Okay. Yeah, I do have a few photos. Will is going to go through them for me. Will? Okay, so this is this fronts on two streets. This is the side of Essex Street. That's one block from the ocean, and it was properly posted on that side. Next, this is a shot. I just turned and took a shot down toward the south, so you can see that's where the beach entrance is, and Surf Club starts on the left side there. Next. And this is nearest neighbor, the motel across the street from the Surf Club. Next. And this is the frontage on the Surfside Avenue side. You could see the posting. It's very bright, so things came out dark. Anyway, now this is a shot just up Surfside Avenue. Next. And I just got a closer view of that second posting. Next. So this is Unit 22. This is the unit in question. You can see how it's walled in on three sides, and this is where they're proposing to enclose the entranceway on the first and second floor. Will's photos actually show more of the top. Now that's Unit 22. I just took this. These condos where they are kind of in little groupings of three. And this is just a shot. That's actually Unit 23 there, and Unit 22 is the one to the right of that going down, into that photo you saw before that. And next, and I just took a shot out at the parking lot. You can see a number of units have work being done. And next. And then I went around to the beach side, since this is a variance request also, as well as an NRSP for the variance from the dune crest. And I'm not exactly sure which unit 22 is in this one. I think it might be the one that looks like it's directly east, toward the east of from 32M sign. But you can see how they're clustered. And I think I took one more shot just to show you it's more of an expanse of the dune crest. That's the dune. And as it goes across east in front of the surf club. And I believe that's it.
Thank you, Terry. Lori, you're here for representing the owner.
Yes, Martin Handler.
Okay, Lori, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So this is a very simple application as described. And as seen in the photographs, it's entirely on the interior of the complex. You can't even see the beach from this side of the unit. It is a infill project where you saw that little hallway you had to go down to get to the door to enter your unit. Not only is it dark, but it's also not very safe, but this is wasted space as well. So this will create a new entryway and a little office upstairs. The surf club is the very first property east of map 174, where the bluff crest setback increases to 150 feet. If we were one lot west, the bluff crest setback would be 100 feet and we wouldn't need a variance. The planning board approved.
Well, this is a type 2 secret action, but I think you submitted, Lori, an EAF for secret?
I believe we did, yeah.
An environmental impact statement, but I would think that the short environmental assessment form. But I guess this doesn't require secret review.
It does not.
Or it would be handled by the planning department. Okay.
Correct.
All right. I have no other questions.
Anybody else have questions for Lori?
I have no questions.
Okay, if not, let's go to the planner. I believe that's Delaney. No, this is Will, right? Oh, sorry, Will.
Yeah, this is me.
How are you, Will? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll show you the photos I took, I guess, since they were mentioned. This kind of gives you a better view of what the roof looks like. And also, I'll just pull up the survey here for a minute so you can get a better visual idea. This is the unit. This is the area. I'll zoom in, I guess, so you can maybe see it a little bit better. But, this is the area being proposed to be renovated. As noted, it is a very small portion of the unit. Let me zoom out here a bit. Here's the dune, and yeah, here's just a visualization of its relation to the dune crest line. I don't have to add much to what was already said previously from the technical analysis memo. I helped review this for the planning board too, and we thought it was pretty straightforward there. I think the same here, so that's pretty much all I have to say on it.
Good, thank you, Will. Does anybody have any questions for Will?
No.
No.
Okay. If not, Matt, is there anybody in the public on this application?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Lori, I would assume you have anything to say, close with Lori, or are we, okay.
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Terry, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. So for the application of Martin Handler, Surf Club Unit 22 at 20 Surfside Avenue in Montauk, tax map 300-049-06-21, make a motion to close the public hearing and to leave the written record open for 2 weeks, for the time 2 weeks after the record posts to the town website.
I second.
I concur.
I concur as well. Thank you. Thank you, Lori. Our next applicant is Weeping Beach LLC at 386 Further Lane. Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map Number 300-189-05-05. Again, the applicant is Weeping Beach LLC. The size and location is 87,876 square feet at 386 Further Lane, Amagansett. The description is to allow a 2,938 square foot pool patio and 310 square foot slate patio to remain within side yard setbacks. The relief sought is two variances from 255-1110 dimensional regulations of the town code and any other relief necessary. The following variances are required. One, a 1.7 foot variance is required to allow the slate patio to remain 13.3 feet from the side yard lot line where 15 feet is required. A 5.8 foot variance is required to allow the pool patio to remain 24.2 feet from the side yard eastern lot line where 30 foot is required. The zoning district is A5 residential zone X flood zone. Secra class is type 2. Council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, we have an affidavit of service and posting, both reflecting that the mailing and the posting were done on March 11th, 2022, and the paperwork does appear to be in order.
Thank you. And do we have the agent here with us?
No, it's me first, Mr. Chair.
Sorry. Thank you, Ed. You doing it?
This is, Eleni's going to help me out with this. I just want to say first that the survey we've been working from on this that the board has had is from March 3rd, 2021. That was the first shot there. Oh, you got the survey. All right. Okay. Thank you, Eleni. Here's the proper posting. We have that set up outside. This is a flag lot. So we come down and we have this right in front of where the building is, the house lot. Next. I turned and looked at this point, I turned and looked to the east. I'm looking my way down further lane. Next. I turned and looked to the west. There's an open field as part of a large place to that side. That's looking to the west on further lane. Next. I'm looking from, I just took a step over to get an idea of the scope and what the character of the neighborhood is. This is a single parcel to a house that's off towards the ocean with a detached building. Next. This is just turning directly from standing in further lane with my back to the driveway to the house in question. And you can see that it's basically a wooded area across the street. I don't see any structures when you stand there at all. Next. Now this is coming down the lane. I'm out close to the driveway, and you see that this lot, these lots are flag lots, and that there's several residences along the way. I've passed two of them to come to this larger parcel. Next. This is the gate into it. I've got my back on the lane. You can see that there's an apron out here with some Belgian block and an improved driveway. This, as you know from reading the TAM, is most of the construction and work done here predates modern zoning. Next. I was just a little further, and that's further in to give you an idea about the area, the parking area. This is all off on the north side of the lot. Next. This is entitled, this name of this is LLC is Weeping Beach. Here's the Weeping Beach. This is now I'm looking south, and you can see that well beyond there's a lawn. This is a long, somewhat narrow piece. Next. I'm looking at a portion of the structure from here, from back on the lawn, looking back. This is one end. This is on the east end, or I guess it's actually on the north end, rather, of the house. Next. This is the main structure. Again, I'm standing out on the lawn looking back at the house. Next. Now I'm looking off to the right. We see some buildings that are going to be in discussion here that are along at the pool area. And you can see again the expanse of the size of this lot here. So it's a sizable parcel. Next. I'm staring at the pool. Here's the pool. Pool houses, there were 3 structures. If you look at the survey, we'll see 3 structures there. The portion of this in question is behind the building immediately in front of us. Next. Here I've walked around back. This is precisely when we go back and look, we'll see the corner of that building is 30 foot from the property line, but where the relief sought has to do with that portion of the patio or that rock patio that you see right immediately in front of you. Next. Now I've turned and looked the other way. I'm looking north. That was on the south end. I'm looking just to give you an idea of that patio. There's that pool house again. You can see that this is a basic walkway around the back. And what we're looking at, that line immediately in front of you, is the one that's in question in terms of being too close, looking for the variance close to the property line. Next. Oh, I just wanted to make the point that there is some fence that's on the property line. This is a fence that gives us a bit of a zigzag here. It's some 20 feet or so away from immediately behind the pool house. We can see this fence. That fence there, which cannot be seen in much of the rest, basically runs along the east edge of the property and continues on behind the house as we continue to walk. Next. Now we're getting back a little bit further. This is the other piece, the portion that needs looking for the 1.7 foot variance that sits, patio that sits directly behind the house. Next. I'm looking exactly down now on the point that protrudes out and is calling for the variance. It's going down under that U. Next. Looking, just turn from that spot, looking back to see how it relates to the house. It's a little patio that comes out of this series of French doors. Next. No, forget, I don't know, that's a mistake. Next.
The last one.
Oh, last one? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. I think we have Lori here with us again. Lori?
Yes. Do I have to be sworn in
Thank you.
again?
No, you're already sworn in. Thank you.
So this is really straightforward as well. Both of these structures, the slate patio and the walkway behind the 2 pool houses, show up as early as a 2009 survey. Aerials reveal for sure they were there in 2001, but this was not reflected on a 2002 certificate of occupancy. Then again, the slate patio to the rear of the residence was also on the ZBA, the 2010 ZBA approved survey. However, it had not been part of the application or discussed by the board. So both of these structures are pretty innocuous. They're extremely well screened and between fencing and vegetation. The walkway behind the pool is effectively that, a walkway. I mean, the purpose of having double setbacks for swimming pools and for pool patios is because of the potential noise that can be generated from those structures. It is highly unlikely that someone is going to set up a chaise lounge behind the pool house to have a conversation with somebody else. So I think in that instance, this is not going to be a problem to allow it to remain. The only question that I have is we have absolutely no problem with agreeing to maintain all the screening. But the second question to do an as-built survey is confusing to me because this is the as-built survey. So I'm not sure that's why it's a condition of our approval or a recommended condition of our approval. My clients are actually in the process of selling this property, and that would be quite a delay in order to get the CO that we're seeking.
I think it might be almost rhetorical.
Yeah.
Right. So, because I mean, an as-built survey is required for a certificate of occupancy.
But this is an as-built survey. This is what exists.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yep.
Okay. Lori, just to be clear, both these patios appears to have existed before the 2002 certificate of occupancy?
Correct.
Okay.
They were overlooked by the building department, and then they were overlooked by the zoning board in 2010.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Lori?
Well, I just have one. The TAM addresses the fact that there are conforming locations available for the patios on the property. Can you address that? Because we do have to meet the standards.
There's already a slate patio in front of the house, and there's plenty of pool patios surrounding the pool. These, probably, to be honest with you, the slate patio was probably put in back in the time when Don Sharkey allowed brick and sand. I mean, they didn't require permits at grade.
So this was before 1984 when we set up a code for this?
No, it was no.
I think they were allowing brick and sand later than that, Denise.
Much later. Probably
much later.
stopped 20 years ago. But anything at grade didn't require a permit, which is probably why it was overlooked by the building department. It seems that the walkway behind the pool houses was created for convenience because there are doors on those sides of the pool house.
When there's a notation about the bin on the north side, it's no longer being applied for necessary variances, so that's going to be removed?
That has been removed.
It has been already, okay. Those are my questions.
Anybody else have any questions?
No, thank you, Mr.
Nope.
Chair.
If not, I think we have Eleni again. Or Eleni here. This is first one for Eleni. Eleni, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we don't have too much to add on this one. We'll say that there are aerial views of the parcel, which do show that that it was in existence, that those slate patios were in existence in 2001, but they were not reflected on the 2002 CO. This parcel did come before the zoning board in 2010 for a proposed tennis court in this area, but it was not applied for nor addressed at that time that these patios were within side yard setbacks. And it does appear that it has been in existence for quite some time now. There had been a building permit issued in 2010 for the tennis court, which did note that these areas were to be removed, the patios within setbacks. However, it appears that the applicant had not moved forward with constructing the tennis court, and thus it didn't get removed at that time, and they're here applying for the variances now. Other than that, if there are any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Eleni?
Not me.
No.
Okay. Matt, anybody in the public?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lori, again, you want to come back or you're...
I have nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. Ed, you want to close us out?
Yes, I will. Then in the matter of Weeping Beach LLC, 386 Further Lane, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-189-05-05. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing tonight, but to leave the record open for 2 weeks after the transcript of this meeting are posted on the town website.
I'll second that.
I'll concur.
Concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Lori.
Sorry.
Hey, Joel.
Good evening.
Our next applicant is Eastgate Investors LLC at 30 Eastgate Road in Wayne Scott, Suffolk, tax map number 300-192-01-10.2. The applicant, Eastgate Investors LLC. The size and location is 31,625 square feet, located at 30 Eastgate Road, Wayne Scott. The description is to allow a slate pool, patio, and spa to remain located within side yard setbacks. The relief sought is 2 variances from 255-1110 Dimensional regulations are required. Variances of 4.1 and 3.6 feet are required to allow slate patio 15.9 feet and spa 16.4 feet to remain where 20 foot is required, and any other relief necessary from East Hampton Town Code. The zoning district is B residence zone, X flood zone. Secret class is type 2. Council, do we have affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, we have an affidavit of service and posting reflecting that the mailing was done on March 8th, 2022, and the posting was also done on that date, and the paperwork does appear to be in order.
Thank you. Okay. This is my case, so I'll be doing the report. As you can see, the site was properly posted, and it was not only posted, it was on plywood with saran wrapped around it for the weather. So good job. If you look, the house is in a long driveway here. It's actually almost like a double wide driveway. You'll see it split in the background there. That goes into 2 residences. Here, as you're driving up to the house, you can see the 2 driveways. One splits to the right, one splits to the left, and our applicant is the one to the left. This is a photo of the front of the house, and I'm going to take a walk around the left side of the house. This is the entry into the backyard. As you see some of these photos, you can see the screening is quite extensive on this property. This is now you walk through the gate, and you can. I take a shot over the pool. You see the spa in the background, the screening in the neighbor's house. This is a shot directly looking over the pool. You see the spa there, patio, and then screening once again the neighbor's house. Now taking a look along, it's kind of a diagonal property line. You can along the pool, you see the patio, the spa, and then I have one more photo of the screening along the property line, and that should complete it. We have Joel here with us.
Joel here.
Hi, Joel. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, board. Hopefully this will be as quick as the last 2. The application before the board is a clear case of builder's error, or maybe in this case, the designer's error. The project meets all the standards for the approval of the requested variances. As per the memo submitted to the board on March 16, 2022, with attached email from the owner of Seeking Complete, who designed the project, you can see that they had said that they had spoken to the town and they were told that the setback was 15 feet. I don't know who they would have spoken to from the town, because it's pretty obvious that, you know, all these setbacks, no setback on this property would be 15 feet for an accessory structure. It starts at 10 feet and then goes to 20 feet for the pool and, you know, pool patio and spa. I received a second email, which I was hoping to submit tonight to the board tonight, but we are still in the Zoom format. To that point, I will read the email into the record and submit a hard copy to the record prior to the record closing. The email goes as follows. As we discussed earlier, we have a situation at 30 Eastgate Road in Wainscott that needs to be rectified. Through builder error, a gunite pool was built too close to the setback line. As you requested, the information that you will need to successfully apply for variances includes an as-built survey showing the location of the hot tub, assurance from the homeowner that the existing evergreen trees will remain in place, admission of builder's error, and a letter from the neighbor submitting that the hot tub location situation is okay with them. And then it goes on to stating that I've CC'd Stephen Steiner, who's the owner of the property, to make an introduction, state in writing what I discussed earlier. We also ask his assistance in providing material that will helpful to the application to the town of East Hampton. And it goes on further, but nothing of importance for the record. But I will submit this as a hard copy before the record closes, as I stated. Within that memo, I also submitted, I outlined the 5 variance standards of 255-8-60 and how I feel that this project meets those 5 variance standards. The first variance standards, whether the grant of the variance will cause an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or will create a detriment to nearby property. The requested variance was caused by a builder's error. And there's a 50-foot reserve line, as you can see from the survey, between the subject property line or the affected property line and the closest neighbor. So in effect, the distance between the neighboring property line and the pool is approximately 65 feet for, an adequate enough setback for the noise that could possibly be created for this structure. Obviously, the board knows the setback would be 20 feet. We are 65 feet from the nearest property line. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. Obviously, just by looking at these pictures, this is a substantial structure. Removing the structure, to place the spa in the other location would be, cost prohibitive in some situations. I don't want to spend, the property owner's money, but personally, I wouldn't want to spend the money to remove that spa and place it to the other side when we could possibly get a variance for it. Whether the requested variance is substantial, the variance is, we're only asking for less than a 25% variance here, so the variance is not substantial. Whether the grant of the variance will have an adverse effect on or impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood or the affected area of the town, there will be no adverse effect of the environmental impact because of the location of this hot tub. Obviously, this hot tub could be placed 4 feet from where it is now and have the same environmental impact, and so therefore it does not have an environmental impact in this area. Whether the difficulty causing the applicant to request this area variance was self-created. This was not a self-created variance. This was a builder's error or design error that was in no way a part of the property owner. So beyond that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
I mean,
I just wondered,
go ahead.
could you just address the reserved area? What is the reserved area exactly?
I don't have the language of the subdivision, but I'm sure it was created as part of the subdivision. So, I mean, if you'd like, I could pull up the subdivision, the subdivision file, but I believe it's just a buffer area between the property owner to the west here and the property owners to the east. As you can see, that there's plenty of screening between this property and the reserved area, and the reserved area is fully vegetated.
Yeah, I think it's significant to your application. I just wanted to be able to document what exactly it was.
Okay, if the board would like, I could pull up the language for that reserved area and submit it to the record.
Okay, I don't think you need to.
Okay.
No?
Joel, I might challenge this stated builder's error thing. Whether it's builder's error or not, it still goes up to the owner, and I would think that would fit the self-created category. So I don't know if that would be an adequate statement. But and also, as you look at it, there was an existing swimming pool. An error would be it looked like it was more intentional to put the spa on that end of the pool than an error to put it on the end of the pool. I'm just making that as a note.
Well, I mean, I don't know how many builders would want it, or how many property owners would convince a builder to create an error like that. And take
my point in challenging it is, I don't know if I think more likely the builder was directed to put it there. By somebody.
I don't know. I mean,
more than likely. I'm just saying more than likely. I'm not going to argue.
It was a reputable builder who put it in this place. So I don't know.
He suggested the location.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what builder in town would take the credit for a mistake. Like, if I made that mistake and I did it on purpose, I don't think I'd put it in writing that I made the mistake because I did it on purpose.
All right, we can move on. It's not going to impact it much. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Joel?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going back to Member Brenneman's request about the reserve area. I think
Sure.
I would see that also. What it showed in
Joel, I'm
the
sorry. I'm
What?
sorry to interrupt, Joel, but is there any chance that reserve area might have been a county requirement for the subdivision?
I would have to pull up the subdivision.
Sometimes it's 10, yeah, sometimes it's 10%. I'm just wondering out loud.
Well, again, I asked simply because I think 50 feet is a significant impact on this, and we could cite this as part of a decision. So, Joel, if you could look it up and send it to us while the record's open, I think that would be great.
Right, I would rather it be submitted as to the record beyond this
Yeah.
hearing rather than wait for us to pull it up now.
Yeah, I can get a copy of it and submit it to the record. And that should be easy enough to get that done before the record closes.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else?
Anybody have any questions for Joel?
The only thing, just to beat the easement one more time, and that is, if the conditions that were laid down for the easement include a vegetation plan, a planting plan, is it currently wooded? Is it a wooded buffer now, Joel? Is it woodland?
Right now, it's currently vegetated. It's not cleared.
It's
Technically a reserved. I don't believe a reserved area can be touched once it's
right. So I'm saying, so that's what it is. Okay, thank you. So there we have it.
And it is true. It is a naturally wooded
Yeah. Okay.
area.
So it's naturally wooded, and it'll be part of the conditions that it stays that way.
It would if it's part of the subdivision.
If it's a reserve,
Yeah. Okay. Want to make it clear that that's the case.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? If not, we'll go to the planning department.
Good evening.
Hi, Eleni.
So we don't have that much to add on this application either. This is one that could potentially have qualified for a variance without a hearing, but they were requesting 2 variances here. Actually, no, it could have qualified for a variance without a hearing. The property is well screened along the subject property line, and that reserve area. And I don't have that. We will be able to get the subdivision. I don't have it right now. We'd have to look it up, but it is a 50-foot buffer between the 2 properties, and it is vegetated. Other than that, if there are any questions.
Do we have any questions for Eleni?
No.
No.
Thank you. Matt, is there anybody in the public on this?
I do not see anyone.
Thank you. Joel, anything to add? Close on? If
I
not,
have nothing to add.
thank you, Joel. Okay, I'll make a motion. Therefore, I make a motion to close the public hearing and leave the record open for 2 weeks past after the transcripts are posted on the town website for Eastgate Investors LLC at 30 Eastgate Road, Queenscott, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-192-01-10.2.
I'll second.
I'll
it.
second. I'll concur. Give that to the vice chair.
I will concur.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Who seconded that last motion?
I did. Good.
Ed,
Good.
Thank you, Ed.
our next hearing is Robert Cowan of 47 Deerfield Lane in Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-175-06-29. Again, the applicant is Robert Cowan. Size and location is 12,794 square feet. It's 47 Deerfield Lane Hampton Dunes, map number 4694, Amagansett, Suffolk tax map number 300-175-06-29. The description is to construct 615 square foot of additions to the residence and 139 square foot of roof decking and an upgraded sanitary system on a parcel of land within 150 foot of wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420, and 3 variances from 255-430 wetland setbacks are required for this project. Variances of 46.2 feet and 50 feet are required to allow the construction of an addition to the residence 53.8 feet and decking 50 feet from wetlands where 100 foot is required. 1 variance of 19 feet is required to allow clearing for the sanitary system to be located 31 foot from wetlands where 50 foot is required, and any other relief necessary from East Hampton Town Code. The zoning district is B Residence AE flood zone, elevation 10, secret class type 2. Council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, we have an affidavit of service and posting reflecting that both the mailing and the posting were done on March 8th, 2022, and the paperwork appears to be in order.
Thank you. Is this Tim? You got this?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eleni. And we are in Hampton Dunes Subdivision. As the board knows, this is a development that's characterized by smaller lots, kind of carved out of duneland. And many of the homes are sort of smaller cottage-style structures. I'm going to be making my comments this evening from the most current survey, which I believe to be Fox Land Surveying, dated August 31st, 2021. Sensing a theme here, we have the second plastic wrapped posting. So the property was posted properly. I visited it on Sunday and took this shot. Next photo. So I'm in front of the home. You will start to see that the property is pretty densely vegetated, making it difficult to capture the front in a better shot. The vegetation's largely ornamental in nature and so dense that the only tip that we're looking at duneland here is just the terraced entry. It's also worth noting that the existing septic is in the front of the house and at least partially under the entryway here. Next photo. So now I've walked up to the front and I've pivoted to my right, which would be toward the north, and taken a photo of the covered patio, and a portion of this covered patio is to be enclosed. So I wanted to capture that. Next photo. So now I've backed out a little bit and I'm taking a shot down the north end of the property. Again, you can note the vegetation and the fence ahead. Next photo. So I've gone all the way to the rear. So I'm in the northwest corner on our survey and I'm facing back toward the house. This is one of 2 shots where you would be able to see all the suggested improvements on the second floor will be above existing improvements on the first floor, and it will be toward the left to center portion of this photograph. Next photo. Now I've walked to the southwest corner and taken a similar photograph back to the rear of the house. The one note I would make here is that there are 2 proposed dry wells that are noted on the survey, and they'll be placed more or less directly in front of us in this photo. Next photo. Okay, so now standing in that same area, and I rotated to the east or to the front of the property. Again, you can see the fence or gate mid-photo here. And I'm going to walk to the other side of it for the next photo, please. Okay, and so now I'm in front of that gate. I'm looking east, back out toward Deerfield Lane. The area to the left of this walkway is where the proposed IA system would be located. And then I took one final photo where I walked out to the southeast corner of the property and then turned and rotated back toward the house. You can see why I wasn't trying to take photos of the house. But again, the area sort of directly in front of us here is where the IA system would be placed. So that's it for my field report.
Thank you, Tim. I think we have Joel. You here with us, or is it Joel again?
Mr. Hammer, I'm here with Joel.
Mr. Hammer, how are you, Mr. Hammer?
I'm pretty good. I'm glad to hear that, we've upped the game on postings. We were going to use plexiglass, but it's really hard to get during the pandemic. So we might actually ratchet that up a little further from the saran wrap in the future. But I noted.
It's not saran wrap. It's actually industrial wrap that they use.
There you go.
So I'm here tonight representing Mr. Cohen. He's going to be calling into the meeting. He might even be on the line now, just in case we have any questions for his proposed renovations to 47 Deerfield Lane. As I mentioned, Joel's sitting right next to me. I think this property in this area is kind of generically described as being in Beach Hampton, although, it was mentioned that this is actually in a map called Hampton Dunes. Typical lots in Beach Hampton are actually about half the size. As a matter of fact, if you look at our aerial, you'll see that this fronts on the back side of this property fronts on Mako. Those lots are like 7,400 square foot in size. So, they're not quite half, but they're pretty close. We're almost 13,000 square foot lots. So it's actually one of the bigger lots in Beach Hampton if you look at it as a whole. I'd say based on most applicable metrics, it's a pretty modest application. Our proposal is to add 21 square feet to the first floor. That's kind of more of an architectural element. If you actually look at the plans, they're adding a coat closet, but I think it's because they wanted to bump that little area out so that it parrots and accommodates the second floor proposed addition in a much more, aesthetic manner. The second story addition is about 594 square feet as proposed. It has 2 bedrooms. Currently, this house was built as a 3-bedroom house. I believe one of the prior owners had actually merged 2 of the bedrooms together to create a master. But looking at the septic plan, it looks like it has a cesspool and predates most health department regulations. So I do believe it would be grandfathered in at 4-bedroom. We're proposing to upgrade the sanitary system, which is, a mitigation. It's not necessarily required in this case, but it does, that's academic at the end of the day. We thought that was a very good and important factor to put into our proposed application. I do think, we need both wetland setback variances because of the locations of the wetlands as well as an NRSP. In some respects, I think the NRSP standards probably are the more important of the 2 standards just because of the proximity of the wetlands, relative to the existing residents. There are 3 wetlands in question. One of these is much further across Deerfield Lane on the other side of the paved road. You can kind of see that dimension showing it at about 150. So that one's, much farther away, and it's probably a more significant wetland looking at it on the aerials. There are 2 additional wetlands on the north and south property lines. Those wetlands occur between the house and 2 adjacent houses. So, you have houses on either side with these small wetland depressions in between them and the corridor. It's pretty typical throughout the area. We have pretty low depths to groundwater, as well as occurring on lots that are pretty low in elevation to begin with. So the wetlands are pretty much created or relative to the topography. You can see on our survey as the elevation drops from about 8 or 10 feet At the house site, where our house is, there's a 10-foot contour that kind of wraps it. The wetlands occur between 6 and 7 feet, give or take. Those are basically near the interface with groundwater or closer to the interface, and that's why they're confined to these corridors that are topographically isolated. The wetland areas are pretty small. As I said, there is a much larger wetland system to the west. If you pull back on your aerial, you'll see there's a very significant wetland, not on Mako, it's at the reserved area next door. Even with these small wetland areas, we did propose a pretty modest house. It will be less than 2,100 square feet. That small bump out on the front, which is an aesthetic, the architectural element, is being placed over an existing patio on the property. The lot really doesn't have any existing beach vegetation. That's really mature landscaping that you're seeing there. I would guess it's 30 to 40 years old, just looking at the photos. Perhaps the best mitigation we can offer, it would be the replacement of the sanitary system with one of the nitrogen-reducing sanitary systems, and re-vegging that with beach grass, as I'm sure the board is going to require. That'll, create a more natural appearance to the property, and it will overall improve the environmental conditions. I think the dry wells that Tim noticed, that's a way for us to contain our surface water runoff to prevent it from entering the wetlands, and coupled with a reduction in the nitrogen that we're at, from the effluent and the sanitary, I think those two measures themselves are pretty significant benefits to the environmental conditions on the site. The variances are most directly related to the need to install the sanitary system in a location that's in close proximity to the wetlands. I think that the benefit to the environment from this outlet would far outweigh any detriment caused by clearing of the non-native vegetation in that locations. The additions are pretty modest, and as I said, everything's over the existing structure. There's frankly no way to eliminate variances for any addition to this house based on wetland locations. I think overall the project recognizes and conforms to the town's NRSP standards, as well as being sensitive to the constraints of the lot. The proposed house size will still be modest on what I think is a fairly large lot in the area, and it's not going to disturb the wetland other than as required to replace the sanitary system, which I do think is a positive element of our application. Any questions you have, I'm sure Joel or Mr. Cowan can answer on the phone. Other than that, happy to respond if you have anything.
Just a clarification, Andy. I think just want to clarify that the septic system in this scenario is a mitigation because there will be no 50% triggering it. Is that it?
Well, we're not adding a bedroom. I believe the health department grandfathers you in.
No, I know, but as far as 50% rule, as far as value, I don't think the addition is going to exceed.
That's correct. Yes, exactly. We are
so
beneath that.
Which would trigger necessaries. But in this case, it would probably be a true mitigation.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
Then we'll go to the planning department.
Good evening.
Thank you, Eleni.
So the application is proposing construction of first and second story additions to the residence, decking, and an upgraded sanitary system. I will note the wetlands because they're not that easily seen on this survey. So this wetland, there's a wetland right here, the one across the street, and then up here, and then back here as well. So it is kind of surrounded on 4 sides by wetlands, although the one across the street is a fair distance away. So the parcel is undersized for B residential zoning. The proposed improvements are situated over areas which are already improved, and it would not increase the total coverage on the lot. So that is something to note. And the sanitary upgrade, the proposed sanitary upgrade is not located in the same position as the existing sanitary system. However, because it's an upgrade, it's not require any variances, and it is situated in pretty much the best location on the lot because there are wetlands on all sides. There's really not a spot for it that wouldn't be close to wetlands. The clearing variance necessary is from this wetland here. And that is to clear in order for the placement of the sanitary system. Let's see. Yeah, there's really no other option for the applicants other than to apply for the clearing variance because the wetlands are so close, and you know, this would be an IA system, which would be we do like to see those upgrades. So that's something that the planning department does not object to. Other than that, if there are any questions.
We have a caller on the line.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Lenny?
I do, Mr. Chair. Lenny, it was mentioned by Mr. Hammer that, you know, there'd be a replanting plan over the new septic. He's quite correct in saying that what's there is non-native. You've been out there, you know, there are olives and other non-natives. So will that be something that you'll coordinate then with the applicant here to see what the planting plan will be, approving species and density?
Yes. Yeah, the only thing that we would really see over a sanitary would be beach grass. But yeah, it would definitely be something that we would work with the applicant to do.
So we should be asking for you to get that, to receive that plan? A planting plan for that? Were you going to work in conjunction with the applicant on that?
Yeah, we were under the impression that the clearing variance was requested as to be cleared for this because it is a sanitary system. However, if they are offering to do you know, beach grass and replanting, that's definitely something that the planning department would be happy to work with them for.
Thank you.
I did want to point out that in our submission, we did say that we referenced, you know, your standard board protocol, which is we would plant beach grass combs of 3 on 18-inch centers. So that's in one of our March 16, 2022 submittal. I think that's about as elaborate as a re-veg plan needs to be in this type of area. That's typically what the board would require for disturbed areas. But happy to provide more info, but you know, that was what our intention was.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a caller online. Andy, would that be Mr. Cowan, do you think?
I believe it would be, yes.
All right, so you want to let the caller in?
Caller is online and on air.
Okay, caller, would you identify yourself? Caller, would you be able to turn off the background noise? Hello, caller?
Not sure if the caller realizes he is on air.
Caller? Is this Mr. Cowan on the line?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cowan. You wish to address the board?
No, I just thank you for your consideration. I think Andy and Joel have explained the situation, and we've attempted to make a plan that we think is accommodating all of the constraints on the property, but gives us a little bit more space.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Tim, would you like to close us out?
We should ask the representatives if they have any closing comments.
Yes, Andy or Joel, do you have any closing remarks?
The only thing I would point out is that our clearing variance is to clear 33 feet from the wetlands. It's not like we're clearing right into the wetlands. I mean, it's very rare that you see a clearing variance, but there is, a vegetated area in between where we're installing the sanitary and the wetlands. So I just wanted to kind of assuage the board's concern that we're going to be digging out the wetland. It just so happened the area that will conform to health department standards, it's about 33 feet from that wetland on the south west of the property, but there's sufficient area that we can protect it while we're doing the excavation.
Thank you.
Okay, so unless there are other questions, I'll close it out.
Go
Well,
for it.
I assume the applicant is amenable to all the recommended project conditions that are stated.
Yes, and I've been told that I have to say goodnight to my daughter, Marin, who's watching me. That poor girl. That was just texted to me. But no problem with the conditions of approval.
Okay, then, in the matter of Robert Cohen at 47 Deerfield Lane in Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-175-6-29, I make a motion to close the public hearing and to hold the written record open for 2 weeks after the transcript posts on the town website.
I'll second. Thank you.
I'll concur.
Very much.
I concur.
I concur as well. Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, Andy and Joel.
Good night.
That ends our hearing part of our meeting tonight. We'll go into our work session. We do have some post-hearing decisions tonight. The first one I'll read into the record is Michael O'Connell. It's 97 South Essex, Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-049-1-13.2. Size and location is 9,645 square feet at 97 South Essex in Montauk. The description is to construct a 2-story, 2,000 square foot building with first floor retail and deck, a second floor apartment with a porch, and an unfinished basement on a vacant parcel located on South Essex Street in downtown Montauk. The first floor proposes 2 dry retail uses, which are both 1,000 square foot. The second floor proposes 1,049 square foot apartment with a roof porch of 941 square feet. The unfinished basement consists of 1,875 square foot and front deck is 240 square feet. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the town code to allow a 2-story, 2,000 square foot building 103.7 feet from the wetland, a variance from 255-1140 parking requirements to allow 5 parking spaces in the right of way where 13 on-site parking spaces are required. A 15-foot variance from 255-430 wetland setbacks to allow a 4-foot walkway, 2 parking spaces, and an ADA ramp roughly 85 feet from a wetland where 100 foot is required. The 12.8-foot variance from 255-430 wetland setbacks to allow septic system 137.2 feet from a wetland where 150 feet is required. The zoning district is CB, Central Business Zone, X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Terry, was this yours?
Yeah, it was.
It goes back a ways, back to October.
Yeah, I know. It was way back in October 26th, I believe was the original date. And then, okay. You're probably all familiar with this. Mostly I'm going to refer back to there was a submission received from the applicant and the applicant's agent back on dated January 25th, 2022, and received on January 26th, 2022. The applicant had requested us to leave the written record open for a period of time until February 8th in order to get a couple of final checkouts done on some of the items. At the original hearing, if you recall, there was quite a large discussion about drainage and water runoff into the adjacent property and down the street. And so they did the plan with the planning board rather, they did take a further look at that. There were concerns about the parking spaces also on the corner. And at the time, the planning board then did go back and request that the town engineer confirm that the parking was adequate and safe, basically, for the parking in the town right of way. There was some question on that. As far as the natural resources special permit, the variance, and the variances for some of the parking spaces, and they're not large. The wetland that is in question for this project is across South Essex Street to the east, across to the east. And we did get the updated information. There was some work done for the survey, the updated survey dated January 12th, 2022. That is the one we're looking at, right? Yeah, okay. And there was an updated site plan also submitted to us dated December 21st, 2021. And an updated landscape plan done dated October 27th, 2021. At the updated hearing or at the planning board hearing, I'm not quite sure which one, some of the plantings were not recommended and some were actually, one in particular was a tree species that was prohibited by the state. So we have all the updated, the landscape plan. I am looking to approve this, and I think it does meet the standards, the NRSP standards, the landscape plan. There's one item on the landscape plan I'm a little questionable on, but I think this is because of the corner. As you come down South Essex, it's a heavily traveled street, and they have a proposed lawn that I'm a little leery about, but if the planning department approves this, and then I guess I'm okay with it also. They do have a revegetation plan, a couple of flowering dogwoods, and some eastern white pine and some native holly, American holly. And it does look, as I said, the engineer confirmed that the parking should be adequate. This latest plan we're looking at also move the sidewalks a little bit over. There is a project that has not come in front of this board, at least not yet, for another retail shop. And they have modified this sidewalk in order to line up properly coming down the street where the planning department and the planning board are trying to establish some better walkways in this area of downtown Montauk. I think it does meet the standards. They're not, the standards are not outrageous. And I believe it does meet the NRSP standards, and with the additional dry wells and drainage that the applicant is adding, I think that's a significant improvement from the original. There will also be 1,049 square foot. That's the size of the retail space, and as well as that's the same size of the affordable apartment that they are creating on the second floor. So I am going to approve this project.
Thank you, Terry. And Ed, you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a lot to add to what Member Berger had to say. I would say that the planning department spent a lot of time on this. There were several hearings on it, and it got moved around a little bit. A lot of small changes were made along the way. We had our questions, and I do think a major one for me was that South Essex does pitch to the south fairly dramatically, and that there's a fair amount of runoff. And what were we going to do with this parcel if it was hardened, that's currently vegetated? And I do think the addition of the dry wells helped to ease my concerns about what was going to happen once a new what structure is put here. Vegetation is largely removed. What was going to happen, and I do think that was a concern that was a legitimate one, knowing how that area has a tendency to flood. And when they came back with us with some additional changes here, and in their proposal, I felt a good deal better about it. And I think that the planting plan does reflect the fact that they're going to try to do something to soften its appearance for us. Parking was a question for us, and I know that it got perused by everyone in the town here. And I think that eventually we came up with something that's acceptable here. These are a difficult spot. There's a lot of traffic. People come to town down South Essex, make that turn. That turn's one that is traveled. Some people travel it twice a day, So I think we put a lot of time into having our concerns here, but the eventual plan that we're looking at is one that I think is deserving of being approved. And I do think that the wetland across the way, while it is close enough to be a concern, there is the idea that a lot of that water that would be shunted from here, any additional water, would probably wind up down South Essex and being captured by a catch basin that the town maintains. So I'm also looking to agree with Member Berger and to approve this project as currently sits in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in agreement with my fellow board members for all the reasons stated. This is one of those situations where the ZBA is sort of a cog in the wheel of progress. So this really started with the planning department doing a pretty comprehensive review and making a recommendation to the ZBA. And then I think we did a good job of sort of staying in our sandbox related to this. For all the reasons stated, I think it meets the both the NRSP and the area variance standards that are in front of us tonight for this application. And I would be looking to approve it.
Thank you. Denise?
I was not a member at the time, so I abstained.
Great. I agree. Just a point, there was a couple of instances where we said planning department, where I think we meant planning board. So I too agree with this. I don't have anything to add other than I would like to say this is to me, it's an example of good planning where you have affordable housing on top. And I think it's good to see this type of planning go on. Thank you. Council, are we good?
Maybe on mute.
Yeah. Is there a need? I don't know that there's a need. They're saying that the apartment that's going to be on this above the retail space is affordable housing. Should we make some kind of reference to that in our determination that they forward with that? I know there's a whole process for them to do that.
I don't think we have to condition it or anything. I think it's part of the
not
application.
Condition, just the statement. I don't know. Yeah. May not be necessary.
Yeah. Thank you. Our next decision is Robin Diamond at 91 Napa Harbor Road in Amagansett. This is a modification. Suffolk Tax Map number 300-110-2-1. Size and location is 12,429 square foot at 91 Napa Harbor Road in Amagansett. The description is to construct the proposed residence as shown on the new building plans. The relief sought is a modification of the Zoning Board's Natural Resources Special Permit and Variances Determination filed 8/2/2018, which granted the demolition of a one-story residence and construction of a new 1,950 square foot two-story residence with 710 square foot of first and second floor decking and porches, a sanitary system, and a new driveway on a parcel of land containing tidal wetlands, primary dunes, and beach vegetation. The zoning district is a residence, AE flood zone elevation 11, and the secret class is type 2. Tim, was this yours?
Sure, I'll be happy to take the lead on it. So this was, as you noted, a rehearing / modification. The original ZBA determination was filed August 2nd, 2019. We were working from, I believe, the most recent survey, which was a SASCA survey dated November 12th, 2021. Relative to this, the east is the front of the structure, the west is the rear, which borders Napig Harbor. The building plans that we're referencing are from Good Life Design Build, and they're dated August 10th, 2021. I believe there were 10 pages total in that plan, and I think this is probably Eleni that's helping us out, and this is one of the more impactful ones that are illustrated. We had Benjamin Goodell speak on behalf of the applicant and Brian Frank for the planning department. Essentially, there were two changes to the existing proposal, very small. One related to the shifting of a staircase to the west, and the other related to the addition of a storage area on the basement level and then a mechanical room above to the east. The entire structure was made slightly more narrow so that the overall impact was modest, and that can be seen on the architectural drawing that was just on the screen a minute ago. It resulted in a total of the changes, the modification resulted in a total of 80 square foot of an increase in building coverage and a total of 100 square foot reduction in lot coverage. So overall, kind of a no blood transaction. The planning department was comfortable with the changes, really felt that it fit the definition of a modification. And just as a reminder, the original project here was the demo of the existing home, construction of a two-story home, a new sanitary system. The property was non-conforming, so there were a number of variances, setbacks, and several pyramids on this. And as a for instance, the existing home was located actually across the property line. During the hearing, there was some conversation about the western shoreline. Brian Frank reviewed the current conditions, and there was an agreement by the applicant as part of the prior determination to clean up some of the foreign materials that were out there. And the board will recall that there were stones in one area that were to be cleaned up, and then some timber tiering in the other. And it was further noted that the planning department recommended no additional planting to the west out there, that these structures were really, once removed, best not to try to plant anything there. So overall, I find the requested changes to be very minor. And it could be argued that it slightly improves the overall project. And as a result of that, I believe the request meets our standards. And most importantly, it meets the first one, right? The overarching one, which is that the benefit to the applicant from the grant of the area variance outweighs any detriment which grant of variance will cause to the general health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or town as a whole. And, I think, and I'd be surprised if the rest of the board didn't think that was the case here. So with that, I'll turn it over to others.
Thank you, Ed. Terry?
I agree with Member Brenneman, who did his normal extensive review of the project. On my notes, I really, GFA is less than 2 feet, 80 feet over in building coverage, 100 feet slightly was in total lot coverage. He's already given all that information and the planning department's review. I'm in agreement to approve the modification.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, I'm also thankful for the job that Member Brenneman did in so completely presenting to us. There's not a lot to add. I would make note of the fact that 19 decision that was made on this property, which obviously more thoroughly examined some of what is going, some of the original conditions. 3 members of the current board were part of that. So this is a fairly recent decision that was well examined earlier. What we're being asked now is to look and decide whether or not this additional changes that have been made are in any way a detriment. And I have to agree with my board members that I don't see that they are. There's a slight improvement in one place on a pyramid. And I think that given the fact that this is being done in a way in which not only was there previous approval, but it looks as if is this a general improvement on the conditions that now exist. I will agree with my fellow board members and agree to approve this application.
Thank you, Ed. Denise?
I agree as well that this meets the standard for an NRSP and a variance. They have minor changes. They've continued to work within the overall footprint. And with regard to the exterior staircase on the west side, it's been shifted to the south, making the northwest corner of that staircase actually further from the dune crest. They've kept the footprint to be almost identical, and there are no changes in elevation. I, too, made the notation about Brian's reference toward the shoreline restoration work and the removal of 2 timber tiers. And also, closer to the gazebo, there are some larger rocks that the planning department also recommended be removed for the quality of the shoreline habitat. So for those reasons, I agree with my fellow board members that I approve this application.
I agree as well. I'll just make a note that this property has been gone through in great detail with this zoning board, even leading up to the 2019 decision. This modification is minor and even gives back a little bit. So I agree with you. Thank you, board members. With that, we can move on. Thank you. Our next decision is Frank Davis at 42 Captain's Kids Path in Montauk. Suffolk Tax Map number 300-004-01-02. The size and location is 12,362 square feet, 42 Captain's Kids Path, Montauk Peninsula Syndicate, map number 4279 in Montauk. The description is to allow additions to an existing residence to remain as constructed. The relief sought is a modification of the zoning board's natural resources special permit and variances determination filed 7/11/2019, which granted the construction of a total of 1,310 square feet of additions with approximately 1,000 square foot of second-story decking and balconies, a 300 square foot swimming pool with patio and an upgraded sanitary system on a property within jurisdiction of tidal wetlands and bluffs. The zoning district is B, Residence Zone X, flood zone. The secret is type 2. Who handled this one?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
Okay. Yeah, the original determination on this project and approval on this project, as stated, was 7/11/2019. The modification hearing was on January 11th of 2022. Our original determination at that time did approve 1,310 feet of additions, 1,000 feet of second-story deck and balconies, the 300-foot swimming pool, and the sanitary system. In September of 2021, there was a stop work order due to the work that was done, which was neither approved nor permitted, and that is the reason that the modification was requested in front of us to approve these changes as they were already constructed. That part is bothersome to me, that, having given a determination back in 2019 that we approved the three additions, and that the applicant did not come back to us until the reconstruction was done and there was a stop work order issued. Now, all that said, at the time, I don't know if there was a side-by-side diagram. Well, the original was that one. Okay, I'm having trouble seeing the date. This was the original, right? The revised. No, that's the revised. Okay, the approved site plan is there on the left. As we saw, it was for 3 smaller additions, one on the southwest portion of the property, one on the south, and then a one-story addition between the existing house and the garage. The garage was approved to put a bedroom above the garage space, but all of that was going to be between the main house and the garage would have been 1 story. What was ultimately constructed was they took the 3 additions that had been approved and turned that into 1 larger size addition. The applicant was represented by Daniel Michelle, the architect who was asked to redesign the project. As much as I am not happy that they did not come in front of this board again, when I look at the standards, what happened was the 1-story addition, the original 1-story addition between the garage and the house turned into a larger 2-story addition. Basically, it incorporated the size of the other additions that had been approved back in 2019, but it created a 2-story and a very looming view of this house visually as you approach it. So the work that was done was 1,554 feet of the additions, and according to the planner, to Tyler's memo, there was a miscalculation in the size in the original also, so that accounts for the slight discrepancy in the numbers. So the construction that was ultimately done is similar in size, but all now done on the southeast side of the house. And one of the additions that had been approved on the northwest side of the house is now being requested to remain as a deck, as rather not an addition. Now, back in 2019, the addition on the northwest side was required it was 79.3 feet from the bluff crest and 104 feet. Now the addition as it was done, the 2-story addition, is actually out of variance requirement. So it's an NRSP only. And the other decks that they are requesting now on the front of the house, on the south side, are also out of variance area. The 79.3 foot variance is still, not variance, 79.3 feet from the bluff crest is still required for the decking that they're requesting. And they are asking for a shed on the west side, which is also 120 feet from the wetlands. All in all, although I don't like the methodology used to get this modification request in, if you call it a methodology, looking at the numbers and the reduction of, well, not really a reduction, a switch of a variance from an addition to a deck. And during the modification hearing, the agent did agree to covenant that the decking in the northwest portion that requires the variance would never be enclosed and made into internal living space. And so with the removing of these extensions, I am going to approve the modification a little bit reluctantly because of the way it came about. But looking at the NRSP standards, I guess having some of those additions and other decking further away from the bluff crest is actually, I guess, an improvement on the NRSP.
Thank you. Ed, we'll go to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so I'm largely in agreement with Member Berger on this. I do think that we see some of the originally proposed construction moving landward and further from the waterfront, and that's definitely an improvement. I have to, though, echo what she had to say, and that is that you come in front of the board, you get approval for a certain type of construction, a certain look. And then to go and build something different without coming back in front of the board is really not something that we want to encourage. I think that if this becomes a way in which people think that that's a tactic, I would be very, very bothered by it. You get an approval, you have a drawing, those drawings exist. Go out and build what you were approved to build. To come back to us later on and say, well, we made some changes. Well, you're making changes in an area that requires an NRSP. You're making changes in an area that requires other considerations. I think this is a fairly serious problem for us when we're sitting here as a board trying to hold to a standard over a certain period of time. However, having said that, and I do feel strongly about it, I think that, and I think the planning department, the environmental planners on this have pointed out that there are some improvements here in the fact that we're giving up the seaward side extension. So not to repeat everything that was said by Member Berger, I do think that looking at the NRSP standards, this is an improvement from the original. I think that we are exchanging some square areas in one place to another. However, the way in which this went about is just not something that we're going to look favorably upon in the future. Given the fact that there is something of a wash here, I will go reluctantly with Member Berger and approve this. But again, I don't like the way in which it was done. And although there's a net, possibly a slight net gain for us in terms of NRSP standards, I'm just not comfortable with approving any applicant who comes in here, comes to the front of the board and makes changes without getting previous approval from us. But I am prepared reluctantly to approve this one, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ed. Tim?
Yeah, thank you. And I agree with everything that was just said. I would also note that this board has denied some of these requests, so that there's that. But in this case, basically same square footage, more conforming, less disturbance. I think for all of those reasons, it meets our standards, and I'm in agreement with my fellow board members to approve the application.
Thank you. And Denise, before we go to Denise, I just want to make a note, Denise, that after the O'Connell decision, you are fully vested in now. There are no hearing dates before your tenure on the board. You're joining the board. So there you go.
Yay. Well, is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay. I know. I just want to say this for the record. Dan Michaels I understand everybody's frustration with how this happened, but Dan Michaels was not the original architect. I believe the original architect became ill during the whole process, and after the building permit was issued, Dan Michaels was retained. And I think the changes occurred because the homeowner was actually trying to bring costs down. And it is incredible, but there are a lot of people out there that don't understand the process. I don't think these things are always done deliberately, and I'm speaking from experience. But for the purposes of how I feel, they are now shifting, I think, 3 additions into 1, which is basically has the same impacts on the surrounding natural features as compared to what we've already approved. And I think I'm always looking at the overall disturbance to a site, and there's an overall reduction. The lot coverage remains the same with the alterations. The building coverage has actually been reduced. And there's less of an impact to the site. They've eliminated the need to excavate on the west and south side of the house. They've eliminated the need to remove fill from the site, and they've eliminated the need for demolition that was originally involved on both sides of the house. So for those reasons, I do believe that this modification does meet the standards for a natural resource special permit and variances, and I approve it.
Thank you, Denise. And I too agree with all my board members. You can view this modification or what they did here as a material change. And these are one of the modifications that, because it's a material change, if we do change the way the board does modifications, would have to go back to rehearing. And but for the same reasons that you are all approving it, I agree with also. Thank you. Council, are we good with the decisions?
Yes, and very well narrated and explained. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go on to other decisions at this point. I'm going to read this is Nicholas Gregory at 15 Shore Road in Amagansett, Suffolk Tax map number 300-131-06-16. It's an amended determination dated February 15th, 2022. Nicholas Gregory at 15 Shore Road in Amagansett, Suffolk Tax map number 300-131-06-16. It's regarding a modification, suspension, or revocation pursuant to Town Code Section 255-925 and rehearing pursuant to Town Law Section 267-812. And board members, I just want to read a little statement into this so we all understand what's going on here and that the public is also aware. The board has been made aware of two issues that impact this determination, which granted application to an NRSP and was adopted by the board on February 15th, 2022. The first issue concerns whether notice was mailed to the appropriate address on file with town for the neighbor located at 9 Shore Road, which abuts the applicant's property at 15 Shore Road. The second issue concerns the location of an active well on the neighboring property, also 9 Shore Road, and its proximity to the proposed sanitary on the applicant's property at 15 Shore Road. Based on the information provided to council for the board from both the neighbor, the applicant's agents, and the Suffolk County Department of Health Services, it appears that the existence of the well on the neighboring property at 9 Shore Road was unknown to the applicant and his agents and the Suffolk County Health Department, all of whom appeared to be operating under the belief that 9 Shore Road was hooked up to town water. It was only after this board adopted the determination on February 15, 2022, that the foregoing issues were brought to the council's attention. Based on further information provided to council for the board, the applicant and neighbor are in contact about this issue and possible resolutions to same. Therefore, based on the foregoing, I make a motion to suspend the determination pursuant to Town Code Section 255-925 until such time as a rehearing may be held to determine compliance with notice provisions and the location of proposed septic as it relates to the neighbor's well. If no application for rehearing is made by the applicant within the next 6 months, the determination shall be revoked. Notice to the applicant's agents and the neighbor of this decision shall be made by council to the board and filed with the town clerk's office. Do I have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, at that point, I think the board, we should be discussing this. And Tim, you second, you want to maybe discuss this a little bit?
We take our notice standards very seriously. And given the circumstances outlined, I really feel like we don't have any other choice but to suspend our prior determination and allow this to progress toward whatever the natural conclusion of this will be.
Thank you. We'll go to Terry next.
I agree. I think, the 6 months should be more than ample time for them to resolve any issues, resolve the issue with the well and the lack of notice, but the well issue also. So I am in agreement that sounds good to me. Give them 6 months, and that would be it, I assume. If it's not done in 6 months, then this is the notice that says it will be revoked. Is that correct?
Correct. After 6 months, that's correct.
Okay.
Ed?
Yes, I'm very much in agreement with Member Brenneman on this. These are public hearings. The public is not only invited, but in some ways, they have a responsibility to be involved. Projects happening in the neighborhood are important to them. And so if there's some serious doubt, and there has been doubt raised here, then I think it's our responsibility to open a hearing and allow the public to fully become involved, particularly where it affects them. And I think tonight we had two cases where both the chair and Member Brenneman pointed out how satisfying it was to see postings done in the right way so that the neighbors can see it. We've always expressed concern for that. And so I think that it's really, it's on our shoulders here to definitely look to, have another hearing on this and allow for it to go and give them that period of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise?
I agree. The issue of notice is extremely important because the whole idea of a public hearing is for public input. So if that was that, we just have no choice but to agree with that. And the issue of the well is a very serious one. So I agree with my fellow board members.
I agree too. And this is a sad thing that we have in front of us. This is not something we enjoy doing, but it's I think it's necessary. And especially with the well, that being a problem. With that, we have a motion on the table. We do need, I believe, a unanimous decision. So I'm just going to ask all those who concur, if you can just shout out, I concur.
I concur, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Denise?
I concur.
Yep. Tim seconded, so I concur as well. Thank you.
And I
Council,
concur.
are we good on that? Oh, and Terry. I'm sorry.
Terry. Yes, we are. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I think we now move on and we have 2 minutes for approval. The draft minutes of March 8th, 2022 and the draft minutes of March 15th, 2022. Would like to give Terry the honors for that.
Okay, so I did look at them and there were some minor corrections, so at this time, I do want to make a motion to approve the minutes from March 8th, 2022 and March 15th, 2022 for the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
I'll concur.
I concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you, board members. That's going to conclude our hearing and work session. Vice Chair, would you like to make the honors of adjourning the meeting?
Yes, I would, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to close the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing of March 22nd, 2022 at 8:14 p.m. Thank you.
For the second?
Okay, Denise seconded. I will concur.
No. I asked if there was a second. Sorry.
Oh, did you ask? Oh, okay, I will second it then.
Thank you.
I
Terry.
concur.
I will concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
have a good
board.
week off.
Good night and good news.
Good night, board.
We'll
Good
see you
night.
live on the 5th.
Yes.
All right.
Good night, everybody. Have a great